Black Lives Matter. That's the first thing I want to start this podcast with. Black lives do matter. It's absolutely fucked up what's going on around the world. How many people get killed by the police. It's just the fact that now everyone has a camera, it can get recorded, and the public can see what's happening. But it's messed up, and it's sparked this big protest around the world. I mean, that's amazing. It's unfortunate that George Floyd got killed by some dumbass officers. One of them who kneeled on his neck and the other officers did nothing but watch. But what it brought about around the world was worldwide protests. Not just America, in UK, in France, in Germany, all around the world. Everyone got together and said Black Lives Matter. And because of that, the four police officers who were involved in the murder of George Floyd have all been arrested. The main culprit, who was kneeling on George Floyd's neck, has been charged with second-degree murder. Now, initially, he was caught by the police and he was charged for third-degree murder, which is a really, really lesser charge. All that would have happened he would have gone to trial. If he would have pleaded guilty, he would have just spent 5 to 10 years in prison. But the fact that it's gone up to second-degree murder basically means that if he does get convicted guilty, he will be in prison for quite some time. And even bigger than that is that the other 3 officers that were with him have also been charged for aiding and abetting a murderer. So they'll also be charged. Because I don't believe that shit. If one person's doing a fucked up thing and you're just there quiet and looking at it and not doing anything to stop that person, you should be held accountable. And that should be the main thing. You should be held accountable. And since these protests have started all around the world, you can see more and more on camera how fucked up the police are. Like, every day there's new clips coming out on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter of police abusing their power, just taking a piss, using too much excessive force. That's one thing. And I've said it before as well, there needs to be guidelines set out. There needs to be consequences for the use of excessive force, not just in America, in the UK as well. Because believe it or not, there is racism in the UK as well, and police do show certain amounts of racism. It might not be as much as America, but it still exists in the UK. And I think what they need to do is the government needs to set out these guidelines to show that if an officer is in certain breach or does certain acts to anybody who's in their custody, they will be charged to the full extent of law. They will be prosecuted to the full extent of law, and they will go straight to prison. And I promise you, if that gets put in place, there will be some kind of change. It might not be fully. It might be a few dickheads out there that might still take the piss, but it'll just weed them out. They'll get caught eventually. Karma has a way of getting people like that. But, shit needs to be put in place. But these worldwide protests have really showed a unity of people getting together. Like there's this whole coronavirus thing, and that seems to have gone out the window. Like no one gives a fuck about coronavirus if you think about it. There's all this social distancing, and you can't meet more than one person from someone outside your own household. That just went out the window. Thousands of people all together in unity protesting, which just shows you that people do believe in justice, and people are still out there that want change. And to make matters even more fucked up, Jake Paul recorded himself in part of the riots. He was in a shopping mall, stood there whilst everyone's looting, and then he got a lot of heat for it. So he recorded himself, or I believe someone recorded him. Everyone saw that clip, and then charges were brought against him. So the police basically brought charges against him for trespassing, which, it never fails to surprise me how much fucked up shit he actually does. Like, come on, man, the guy should not be in those kind of places. The amount of followers he's got, the amount of popularity he's got online, he should be using it for the best. Like, he should be using it to support these kind of protests in a better way, by making himself heard online, by promoting these petitions to get certain laws in place that protect certain people, or protect anybody who's in the custody of police. But instead, the guy's fucked up. He's just there in the middle of the mall, recording himself, just trying to get some clout. But charges were brought against him. We'll just see what happens from there on. But it's just fucked up. Like, some people never learn, to be honest. Like, I think, he doesn't have the best social media presence out there. What I mean by that is, although he has a lot of followers, a lot of people on the opposite side of the spectrum don't really like him. They quite hate him, they're quite against him. And the more fucked up shit he does, the more ammo they have against him, the more shit they can say against him, the more they can hate him, the more they can tell him, he's just taking the piss, he's taking up the headlines by putting himself in the middle of a looting place. So, it's distracting for them from the wider issue, of why these protests were started and what they stand for. Instead, they've just filled with Jake Paul's name, and that he was in the middle of a mall and people were looting the mall, and now he's been arrested. And that will continue to get more and more traction. That will continue to get more and more headlines from certain newspaper sites. And at the end of the day, he should put himself in a better position and not be placed in those kind of places. He's got enough money. He should stay away from those kind of places and keep to himself. And if he really, really wants to help, he should, like I said, he should speak to all his followers online, send out petitions, do more of a social awareness online, rather than go out there and do dumb shit. But we'll see what happens with that. The last I heard was he has been charged with trespassing offences, and we'll see what the police do, if they take it further, if he gets fined, or if he gets put in prison, which I don't believe he'll get put in prison. He'll probably get a small little fine, and he'll get told to pay for it. So we'll see what happens on top of that. But apart from the riots as well, there was also, it was in the news as well, like every year Forbes comes out with the rich list. So they have like certain categories. They have the richest people under 30, the richest people in the world, such and such. So they have like different categories, and in one of those categories was Kylie Jenner. Now, Kylie Jenner was placed at number 1 on the Forbes rich list because she was one of the youngest to ever reach like the $1 billion mark. And then reports started coming out that she faked her status. So she basically faked certain amount of papers, which gave other people the impression that she was worth $1 billion, when in actuality she was not. And it got caught out, and with that it came out that it was some kind of tax fraud, and that got put forward to the police, to the government, and apparently there was going to be some kind of investigation. And then she came out on Twitter opposing those straight away, saying that it was all bullshit, and they were all bullshit accusations. But it's a clever ploy from her, to be honest. Like, it gives her more, it gives her more clout, in a sense. Like, she's the youngest billionaire ever in the whole world right now, all from her, I believe, like a social media, makeup and companies. She's like self-made, and that just gives her more of a social presence, and gives her company more of a presence as well, which is like, in a sense, kind of advertising as well. Like, a lot of people would hear that, think, yeah, she's chatting shit about becoming a billionaire. More people are privy to click on click on a link like that, read about it, find out what she sells, maybe use that, recommend it to others, and that's how people get sales. That's how people make money. But you know, billionaires and millionaires and all that shit. At the end of the day, you should just tell the truth. The truth always comes out, and the fact that I don't even know if that's the truth. It was just one article that said that Kylie Jenner chatted shit about being a billionaire. So we'll see in the future what develops on that, if she was really chatting shit. But it makes no sense. I mean, she was quite close to becoming a billionaire. She has like she's up there, and she's not far off from a billion. So like at the end of the things, who really cares? Who really cares? If you see it from a tax side purpose, and she might have been chatting shit, and that might have affected the tax, because in America it's a little bit different. Like you have to pay your tax on your own for everything, whereas in the UK, if you work for someone, they automatically, before they give you your money, they pay the tax for you. Where in America it's a little bit different, but we'll see how that develops as well. And another interesting thing is the NASA and SpaceX launch. Now NASA, which is American government owned, and SpaceX, which is owned by Elon Musk, they both got together and they've set off this whole new space project where they want to basically start the whole space initiative again, get people out into space, get people interested in the whole space initiative. Like, there was back in the 70s to 80s, when they were doing all these space launches, there was a big amount of interest from the whole world. Like, who's going to be the first man on the moon, who's going to travel space, who was going to go up there, what they were going to do. And then it kind of died down, if you think about it. And then this is what this joint venture was about, NASA and SpaceX, to get people interested again. They want to build apparently the whole mission is to get to Mars and try to build like a community there, you could put it that way. Try to build a community there. So that's like the end goal. But they did have a few successful launches into space, and then their news came out, apparently they want to make a movie like in space as well, on the International Space Station. And they couldn't have picked a better actor. Tom Cruise, he's made a few space movies, he's a good actor. And so apparently they want to take him up to the space station and shoot the full movie there, which is pretty cool, to be honest. I don't think that's ever been done. Any space movies that have ever come out, they're all CGI, all computer generated. And the fact that they want to make a movie in actual space, and people there are movie studios who would be interested in doing that. Although I don't know how much it would cost. It costs a lot of money. If you think about it, like shooting a movie in space, there's a reason why they don't do it, because it's a shitload of money. But imagine if it's funded by Elon Musk, who's one of the richest people in the world. He's a billionaire. It'd be really cool, to be honest. And I really find it quite good as well that he's got this whole thing of, he was wanting to start like this whole kind of community in Mars. He wants people to slowly start moving out there. I was watching one of his clips as well, one of his speakers clips, and he was talking about like Mars. The whole planet's quite cold, and he was talking about how he could warm it up, and apparently you could nuke, yeah, you heard right, nuke the polar sides of Mars, and if you nuked them, it warmed the whole planet up. And if you warmed the whole planet up, it'd make it more Earth-like. There'd be a possibility for water to exist, and because it's got a harsh climate, if it got warmed up, it'd basically be more habitable, let's say, for human population. But it's really interesting. That's one of the things that really interests me, like space. Where are we going to be in the next 30 to 40 years? Is there going to be anybody on Mars? Will we travel any further? What kind of technologies will come out? Like a lot of these technologies that we have today, they all came out as a byproduct from space travel. So back when when you had NASA, when you had Russia, when you had these major countries, they were all doing a space race where they were trying to get to space first and become the first person in space and become the first satellite in space and build an international space, space place, whatever. There a lot of byproducts of these, like a lot of new technologies were invented that we use today. So you never know what could come out of this whole new venture with NASA and SpaceX. Like they could make an array of new technologies that we could use every day. They could make certain things better, but it's definitely something to look forward to and see how it is. And I was also recently reading about Madeleine McCann. Now, if you don't know who Madeleine McCann is, she was a small girl. I believe she was like, how old was she? She's like 7 or 8 years old, and she went on holiday to Portugal with her parents, and so her parents left her in a hotel room at night, like 8, 9 o'clock, and they went out. They went out to like a local restaurant, and they were just eating, enjoying food. They come back, and she's disappeared. And this was back in 2007, and we're in 2020. So 13 years. Imagine that, 13 years, no one had no sign of what happened to her. Like, no one knew who took her, where she'd gone, and they carried out this whole big investigation. I still remember it to this day, seeing it on news as well. Like, it was the most popular story for like a year straight. Like, they did this whole investigation. The parents came on TV and were crying, and they were like, oh, please help us find our daughter. But nothing, like, no one found anything. Like, no luck as well. But one thing they did is they kept the case open, so they never officially closed it. So there's always someone investigating her disappearance. And it came out a few days ago that they had like a new suspect, like this German guy, this 43-year-old German man who's currently in prison right now. He was in the area where she disappeared, and apparently he had some kind of background where he had done something similar, where he had tried to abduct a girl or something. But that's a new suspect. But the police were like, because they couldn't really find out where Madeleine went missing, where she was, they couldn't rule her as dead. Because she was missing, they couldn't rule her as dead. Like, they had to, technically say she was still alive. But the fact that they found a new suspect, and they think they might be able to get a few answers out of him and basically see what happened to her, they've started saying that she potentially might be dead. Which, to be honest, I thought, you know what, if it's been 13 years and you've had no sign of her, like, especially in this world, like, all right, fair enough, in 2007, technology, like, there wasn't, I don't believe there were phone cameras, and even if there were, they were like shitty quality. They weren't really good as like the iPhones and the Androids we've got nowadays. But so back then, all right, fair enough. But now, like, in the past few years, from 2015 onwards, like, there's so much technology. There's camera phones, there's CCTV, there's internet, fast speed internet. There's a lot of devices, and like, the fact that she never got caught on any of those, like, she never popped up on one of those, like, no one's ever seen her after that day she went missing, basically tells me that, the day she went missing back in 2007, whoever abducted her probably took her, murdered her, unfortunately, and then got rid of the body. But yes, it's quite amazing that 17 years after, like, you look at the headlines right now on every newspaper and on TV and everything, like, the main ones are about finding this new suspect for the Madeleine McCann case, even 17 years later. So we'll see how that progresses, see what happens, and see if we can get a confession out of him. You never know, he could come out with a confession. I remember when this whole Madeleine McCann situation happened, when she disappeared, like a few years later, a lot of people were suspecting it was the parents, that they didn't like her, and so they paid someone to get rid of her. They purposely left her in the room where she was, and they basically told someone to abduct her, because when she was left in the room, she wasn't left on her own, she was left with other kids as well. And the fact that all the other kids that she was in the room with, who were sleeping with her, were left alone and she was already taken, there was a lot of suspicious activity. But then again, whoever abducted her, it could have been like a random pig. Like, someone could have come in, it would have been quite hard for any person to carry two kids away. He might have just come in, seen her on her own, and thought, fuck it, I'm gonna grab her and run, and that might have happened. But we'll see how it progresses, see what happens. But it's really interesting that they've found a new suspect 17 years later. Let's see if he does admit to the crime, or if they come out with any new suspect as well. And also, one thing Netflix is really good at, Netflix streaming service, you have all these TV series, you have all these movies and all that. But one thing that it makes me sticks it out from a lot of its competition is its ability to make documentaries. So I don't know if you guys have seen, the documentary that they made, Tiger King, Don't Fuck with Cats. They've made quite a few really, really good documentaries. And I was recently thinking, like, imagine if they made a documentary about Blockbuster. Like, does anyone remember Blockbuster? Like, it's really, really old. So some of like your new lot, like new generation, like if you're like, if you're in your early 20s, or if you're 19 or 20, whatever, might not remember Blockbuster. But Blockbuster was a really big company back in the days where, you could go and you could rent movies. So you'd pay them, they'd give you like the movie cassette, you take it home, or DVD, whatever, you take it home, watch it, and then a week later you'd give it back. And it was really, really popular. And this happened many, many years ago. This is back when Netflix was starting up, and they were like, what Netflix would do, before the streaming service, is they would post movies out to customers. So you could go on the website, if you liked a movie, you'd pay for it online, and then post that movie out to you. You'd watch it, and then you'd post it back to them. And so Netflix came up to Blockbuster, and they were like, if you want, you can buy us. So Blockbuster could have bought Netflix, and they outright declined them. They were like, nah, fuck it, we're not going to buy you. We're doing exactly the same thing as you. Actually, we're killing you on that. So why the fuck would we want anything to do with you? And then who knows? 10 years later, Netflix is one of the biggest streaming companies in the world. It's got hundreds of millions of subscribers who pay every month for it. And Blockbuster is bust. It went bankrupt. Like, it got outdated. Like, they weren't keeping up with the times. Like, people found no need to actually physically go to a shop, get in their car, go to a shop, get a movie, bring it home, watch it, and then take it back. Like, they were like, what's the point of that? Where we can go online, we can pay a monthly subscription, and we have access to all these movies, all these TV shows and everything. But it was just a thought in my mind. It'd be really cool if they did make this whole Blockbuster documentary, and how they tried to, how they became so big, how Blockbuster became so big, and Netflix offered Blockbuster to buy them, and they declined, and after that Netflix took over. It was like a big boom, and basically Blockbuster went fucked, just went bankrupt, and no one's really heard of it. Like, only a few people remember Blockbuster now. Like you could call them oldies, like in the 30s and 40s and 50s, they remember Blockbuster. Like, imagine like in the next 10-20 years, no one will even know what it is. It might even be in history books. Can you imagine that in history books about Netflix's takeover of the world, and how Blockbuster got left behind? But that's really popular as well, like these streaming services. Netflix is killing it, but it's slowly getting a lot of competition. Like, you got Disney Plus, you got HBO Max, you got Amazon Prime. Like, there's a lot of competition. It really does, make each streaming service. It's good because it promotes each streaming service to compete with each other, to get the best things out, to get the best shows out, to get the best movies out, to get the best documentaries out. So it's really good in that regard. But then again, what if there's like a situation where you want to watch a TV show on Netflix, and then there's another TV show that you really want to watch on Amazon Prime? Like, do you really want to pay for both of them? Although they're not that expensive on their own on a monthly basis. But imagine if you were paying for Amazon Prime, Netflix, and Disney Plus. That'd be like £30-40 gone from your bank every month, which is quite expensive, to be honest, just to like watch movies online. So we'll see what goes on with that. We'll see if there's any new players in the streaming service world. and see what they come out with. But that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. And if you do follow me on Twitter, keep following me. But if you don't, I am on Twitter at Talking with F1. Follow me on there. Also follow me on Instagram at Talking with F. And I'll see you guys next week.